Welcome back, viewers. You're watching the Savera and I'm Shefali. India wants to tackle its mounting e-waste problem. Global electronic companies say the cost is too high. Daikin, Hitachi and Samsung are among manufacturers alarmed by the new India government rules that require them to pay significantly more to recycle air conditioners, refrigerators, TVs and other appliances, court papers and lobbying letters show. The electronic giants are urging environment officials to abandon the approach, with 4 companies surging Prime Minister Narendra Modi's administration in New Delhi over the measures they say will heighten compliance woes and unsettled businesses. The previously unreported standoff marks the latest chapter in foreign appliances battles with India over what some perceive as protectionist policies and shifting regulatory goalposts. India is the third biggest e-waste generator behind China and the US, but government data shows only 43% country's e-waste last year was recycled. So at least 80% of the sector comprises informal scrap dealers, whose methods can pose environmental and health risks. Concerned about poor waste processing practices, New Delhi in September set a floor price that electronic makers must pay recyclers, with the aim to formalizing the sector and ensuring investment in e-management system. A Reuters review of hundreds of pages of non-public court papers and letters by the government by an industrial group presenting Samsung and LG reveals the impasses over the new rates, which the industry says have roughly tripled manufacturer recycling cost. Johnson Controls, Hitachi, Japan's Daikin, India's Havel and Tata Group's Voltas each sued Modi governments between November and March to quash the pricing rules. The measures are unconstitutional, exceed the government's power under environmental law and raise compliance costs manifold, the company said in a submission to the new judges Delhi. The government has called for the cases to be dismissed. Daikin said no Indian government had ever previously drafted policies with the sole intention of providing financial gain to some businesses. In this case, recyclers at others' expense. Voltas predicted a cascading effect on product prices. The companies are part of Indian consumer electronics market. Euromontor estimates will be worth $62 billion this year. The sector that experienced average annual growth of 10% since 2021. As sales for consumer electronics skyrocket due to rapid urbanization, companies such as Daikin, Hitachi and Samsung has expanded production in India. In line with global trends, India's e-waste reached 1.7 million metric tons in 2023-24, more than doubling in 6 years. Samsung declines to comment. The other companies of India Environment Ministry didn't respond to Reuters inquiries about the pricing rules and the industry's response. Reasonable intervention. Now, for years, India has resisted foreign companies' demand to provoke protectionist policies. Lobbying by Walmart and Amazon, for example, failed to ease regulations and protect small retailers. On e-waste, too, Modi's administration is digging in. In a March 18 submission, the Environmental Ministry urged the judges to dismiss the lawsuit, saying it was reasonable and within its power to fix prices. The alternative of letting companies and recyclers determine price may not account for all cost of environmental sound waste management, the ministry said, adding that it wanted to prevent a race to the bottom in pricing. Now, India's government says there are 322nd authorized recyclers in the country, but informal waste handlers flourish nationwide, using methods such as open burning and acid leaching to extract metal and components, which can release hazardous metals. In Western Gujarat state, 60-year-old crop dealer Malik uses a hammer to dismantle television, air conditioners and routers. Inside him, tin-roofed shed where electronic equipment was stacked in haphazard piles. Malik told the media he earns 50,000 rupee or about $580 a month by selling this plastic circuit boards and copper he extracts from the devices. He doesn't want to work in the form of e-waste sector. He said that business has a lot of expense, it's for the big guys. Happy recycles worried companies. Now, India's new rules mandate a minimum payment of 22 rupee, that is 25 US cents per kilogram to recycle consumer electronics and 34 rupee per kg for smartphones. Makers of heavier devices such as air conditioners are likely to be hit hardest because their per unit recycling cost has risen by a greater amount compared with makers of lighter gadgets like smartphones. Research firm Riesder in February said India's recycling rates will still compared with the US, where they are to be 5 times higher, and China, where they are at least 1.5 times higher. Nitin Gupta, CEO of India's biggest recyclers, Attero, who added that the government rates require manufacturing to pay about $10 to recycle a washing machine. The electronic makers thou feel threatened. India's Consumer Electronics and Appliance Manufacturers Association, which represents LG and Samsung among others, said in a letter to the government in November that e-waste compliance expenses has risen to 2% to 8% of production cost. The group asked environment officials to reconsider the pricing rules. Samsung and LG haven't sued the government but signed the concern. LG India's December IPO prospect warned without specifics that higher recycling rates have a significant financial impact on a company. A person with direct knowledge of the matter said Samsung had told senior Indian officials to recycle cost would be 5 to 15 times the previous rates. Now, in court, Johnson Controls Hitachi was only company to reveal what it previously paid for recycling, 6 rupee per kg or 7 US cents. That figure has now almost quadrupled. The company disclosed that it recycled more than 10,000 tons of air conditioner last fiscal year, which would amount to roughly $2.6 billion under the new rates. It's India's business reported a net loss of 8.8 million the previous year. That was all for now on this story. Stay tuned to the Savera. Download the app, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and YouTube.